Somewhere beyond the ticking clock, we cling to an unseen hand, lifts the corner of tomorrow's curtain, revealing faint silhouettes of triumph, tragedy, and choices we have not yet made, as if the future were already etched in a quiet script waiting for attentive eyes to notice. And tonight, that script has drifted soft as dust onto your screen, alone inviting you to decide whether for a knowledge is a blessing or a burden. Ask yourself, if the path ahead were illuminated for a single breath, would you dare to keep looking or close your eyes before destiny's light became too bright to bear? Asterisk. In that hush between courage and fear stands Jeane Dixon, a woman who claimed to see those hidden lines of fate, who pointed unflinchingly to the date 2025 and whispered that the world would bend, perhaps break beneath its weight. The story begins in 1904 beneath a sepia-tinted Wisconsin sky, where wheat fields swayed like mute metronomes, and a Catholic church bell marked the hours with solemn patience. In a modest farmhouse nearby, a newborn girl was placed in a cradle carved by her father's careful hand. Her name, Jeane, seemed ordinary, yet every breath she drew stirred something that felt impossibly old. Her first sign arrived as an ache of insistence. Barely 5, she tugged at her mother's sleeve and asked for an envelope with a black border. "We don't keep such things," her mother murmured, smoothing the child's hair. But Jeane repeated the request. All day her green eyes fixed on something distant, unmoving. 10 days later, a letter came draped in mourning black. Her grandfather's passing announced exactly as the little girl had foretold. The house fell silent save for the hush that follows a secret finally spoken aloud soon after. Jeane stood by the front gate, a chill October wind teasing braids loose, and announced with a bright certainty, "Daddy will bring home a big dog, black with white patches." No one had mentioned a pet. Money was tight, and travel was rare. Yet 3 days later, her father returned from a distant business trip, a black and white sheepdog trotting at his heel. As if summoned by her words alone, these murmurs of the future unsettled the family. But fascination outweighed fear in 1911, when an Egyptian palm reader visited California claiming to read the lines of destiny. Jeane's parents embarked on a days-long train ride, the girl's small fingers pressed to the window pane as mountains unspooled. Like gray ribbons, mystic traced Jeane's palm in reverent silence, then offered a single declaration: she will be a great seer, one who peers across the veil of time handing Jeane a tiny crystal sphere wrapped in silk. The reader almost whispered, "Guarded visions are both gift and weight." That night, Jeane gazed into the crystal's pale firelight and calmly warned the stranger, "Mind the stove, you will burn yourself." Days later, a telegram arrived. The reader's hand had been badly scalded. In her kitchen, crystal now rested on Jeane's bedside table, glowing faintly, as though memory itself had taken shape. But the gift, once a quiet whisper in childhood, began to speak louder, reaching ears of influence, altering fates. And the gentle hush of a farmhouse soon gave way to salons of Hollywood fame and the marble corridors of our Hollywood. 1942, through the beveled glass doors of an exclusive Wilshire Boulevard salon drifted the scent of lilac pomade and heated curling irons. An olfactory lullaby for the silver screen. Elite mirrors caught the sparkle of diamond earrings. But Jeane Dixon stood apart, her posture tranquilized, focused on something just beyond the walls. Across the room, actress Carol Lombard, flawless waves, crimson smile, laughed with stylists unaware that destiny was already leaning over her shoulder. Jeane approached, voice low enough to dissolve into the soft hiss of hair dryers. "In the next 6 months, do not fly," she urged. "If you do, the sky will not return you." The warning was precise, almost surgical in its clarity. Lombard offered a polite half-smile, the kind reserved for well-meaning strangers, and replied, "It'll be fine. The country needs war bonds, and Detroit is waiting." 6 days later, January 16th, D.C. 3 roared into an indigo Nevada night. Minutes from safety, pilot error sliced the fuselage. Against Potosi Mountain, fire lit the slopes scarlet, and the actress's bright laughter was extinguished in ash, and twisted aluminum in Hollywood circles. Whispers kindled. The woman who foresaw the crash had a name, and it was starting to echo beyond California's Palms. Washington, D.C., November 1944. The city wore wartime. Gray ration lines, blackout curtains, the rattle of troop trains at Union Station. Yet inside the White House, Franklin D. Roosevelt still radiated that invincible charm, even as his hands trembled slightly on the arms of his wheelchair. A discreet phone call had summoned Jeane through snow-dusted gates, past Marine Guards, down lamplit corridors, to the map rooms. Heavy, for the president's voice was softer than fireside chats. Tired, curious, tinged with an unspoken dread. "Tell me," he asked, How long do I have to serve? The question hovered like candle smoke. Jeane met his gaze. Without flinching, no more than 6 months, she answered. The words seemed to chill the air between them, though Roosevelt merely nodded, eyes reflective as the Hudson River. He'd once sailed April 12th, 1945, barely 5 months later, Warm Springs, Georgia. An ache behind his eyes, a fallen hand of cards, then silent cerebral hemorrhage flags dropped to half-staff across 48 states. Many recalled the quiet woman who had walked out of the White House into a flurry of snow and secret-siven before Roosevelt's casket rolled down Pennsylvania Avenue. Jeane's prophetic current had surged elsewhere. One evening in 1944, during a charity gala, thick with cigars and Sousa marches, she clasped the hand of Senator Harry S. Truman. Instead of small talk, she offered a certainty. "You will be president someday." Truman blinked behind rimless glasses, half amused, half uneasy. Less than a year later, the vice presidential nomination found him like a letter delivered in the dark after Roosevelt's passing. The prophecy sealed itself when Chief Justice Stone swore him in beneath the Capitol dome. The newspapers coined her the Seer of Washington, filing columns between war dispatches and ticker tape victories. Photographers tried capturing the exact moment. Her eyes seemed to glaze, those instances when she listened to something no microphone could catch. But film can't frame the future. It only records the present, slipping away from a salon's hush to the resolute desk. Jeane's visions threaded private lives and public destinies together. Each fulfilled warning added another heavier bead to the rosary she carried in secret proof. To believers' challenge, to skeptics' burden, to herself. Yet, even as the nation's most guarded corridors opened to her, she sensed the horizon of her gift stretching further still toward events that would test the edges of imagination. And somewhere in that gathering distance lay a year. Neither she nor the world could ignore an autumn of reckoning numbered simply 1963, and beyond that a date etched deeper in the dark 2025, a breath held like the hush before a storm front. And then we move onward. The Capitol dome shimmered under a late summer sun in 1945 as Winston Churchill's motorcade crawled along Constitution Avenue. Inside the British limousine, leather seats creaked while cigarette smoke curled like uncertain thoughts. He had insisted on a private audience. This American oracle intrigued him in a tucked-away parlor of the Mayflower Hotel, Jeane Dixon greeted the Prime Minister with a polite nod, eyes reflecting both reverence and inevitability. Churchill wasted no pleasantries. Will I be returned to no? 10. He asked, voice gravely from war, and Whiskey Jean's reply came as if dictated from elsewhere. No, the people will choose differently. His jowls flushed crimson. After all, he had steered Britain through blitz and blood. Who could possibly unseat the lion in victory's hour? Yet in July's polls, the electorate delivered a stunning verdict. Churchill out Clement Attlee. In the Seer's reputation crossed the Atlantic. On the front page of the Times, her name whispered beneath Big Ben's shadow. But it was not until she stared into the darkest corridor of American hope that her gift carved itself into the marrow of a nation. 1956 Parade magazine pressed 37 million copies, each carrying an article titled, "What Lies Ahead for Our Next President Buried Within." Jeane predicted a Democrat will win in 1960, but his triumph will be brief, his life cut short. While still in office, few paused. Over-the-line politics makes profits of many. Then November 1960 crowned a young senator from Massachusetts. The White House filled with children's laughter and shimmering possibilities, yet Jeane's visions sharpened. She saw a dense cloud drifting over Pennsylvania Avenue, a pair of obsidian hands wiping a nameplate clean, and letters OSWLD flickering like faulty marquee lights, the D curling downward like a fish hook. Dallas, Texas, November 22nd, 1963, noon sun on polished chrome motorcade turning past the Texas school book depository, a crack, then another. In the stunned silence that followed the Seer's images fused with reality. President John F. Kennedy's blood on a pink suit, the flashing news wire of Lee Harvey Oswald's arrest. 3 letters matched exactly. America mourns, skeptics swallowed hard. Jeane Dixon wept alone, the burden of accuracy heavy as cold marble. Her reach shifted from individuals to epics. During the height of the space race, she warned NASA of fire in the sky, and the tragic launch pad explosion of Apollo 1 echoed her phrasing word for word. She foresaw India's Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, falling to violence from within her own guard. Italy's Aldo Moro taken by those who wear the mask of revolution, and earthquake after earthquake etched across her journals like tremors already felt by unseen plates. Then in 1971, she opened a window further ahead than ever before the call to glory, part memoir, part roadmap to the unknown spoke of a war unlike any humans had fought, a global battle waged by a microscopic enemy. She wrote of borders, closing economies full